Hey, this is Kirk.
And this is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show. And we are joined today by high school head football coach and personal friend, J.C. Hall. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you guys taking time to have me on the show. I'm looking forward to chopping it up here for about an hour.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Kirk, why don't you tell us where people can find us?
Yeah, this is going to be fun because Coach Hall already made a YouTube video that got on the local CBS. How to stay in shape during COVID. Hilarious. This guy's got a great personality. He's been up here, won a state championship up here, but also his dad's a legendary coach from down in Newport News, and he also went to Bethel with Rusty. Real quick, please subscribe. We're going to put all of our social media there. The Kirk and Byrd Show on YouTube. Coach was kind enough to subscribe to our channel. We'd love for people to subscribe. Subscribers usually watch a lot longer, and you get all kinds of updates. So at the Kirk and Byrd for you young student athletes, we've got lots of cross connections. Follow us there, and we'll put Instagram on there. And then if you want to listen to our podcast, a drive, a workout, I was telling you, Coach, that we've got some great interviews. Mike Smith, the legendary Mike Smith from Hampton. We've got Mickey Thompson. We've got Maury's coach, so many. So please subscribe to all of our social media, especially the YouTube. You get the visual, and we like to have fun. This is something different. We're not just high school. We do college. We're probably going to have Colgan baseball on later coming up. So having said that, Rusty, I know you're good friends with Coach Hall. We're going to have fun, talk about things, but why don't you get us going with Coach Hall? And I got a feeling this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so this is, again, that time where I say, Kirk, be quiet. I'm talking to my dog, okay? All right, so, Kirk, you can just do the plugs, and if I get a little long-winded, right, you can kind of give me the signal to zip it and move on to the next question. Got it?
He'll spend 20 minutes talking about a basketball game in middle school, and riding the Krispy Kreme donuts on Mercury Boulevard afterwards.
There you go. There you go. All right. So I want to, before I get into talking Coach Hall, I do want to bring up the fact that we want to, you're from the 757 originally. All right. Then you moved up here and you were in Northern Virginia, or that Central Virginia area. And so we're trying to make sure we give love to the Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, Stafford part of the state. And you are a great representative of that area. And so that's what I want to do. I want to make sure Spotsylvania is getting that love, because you have brought a lot of excitement to the area, not just as a coach, head football coach, former head track coach, but you're a legend in that you led Courtland High School to a state championship back in 1988. Coach, so I want to get into let's tell me a little bit. We'll first start out so people that know you now. What are you doing now? Okay. What are some of the things going on in your program? We'll go back to your 757 days. So tell us about Courtland.
Yeah, I mean, right now for me at Courtland, I'm a loyalist at heart. This is year 19 completed for me at Courtland as far as a coach. So next year will be year 20. Obviously, a tradition-rich program, goes all the way back to when the school opened up in 1980. At the time, it was only the second high school in the county. Courtland in the 80s went to 5 state championships in 9 years.
Wow.
Winning 4 under legendary coach Ken Brown. Mm-hmm. I was very, very fortunate to not only play under Coach Brown, but also to coach under Ken Brown as well. So for me, it's been an easy transition, just trying to carry on the tradition once I got here. Add to the record board a little bit. For us, we always are trying to add championship dates. Currently, I think we've won 10 district or region championships in my 19 years here.
Okay.
For us, it's the same as anybody else in the state. We're trying to get to game 11. But obviously you got to take them one at a time. So we're obviously looking forward to game 1 next year. And it's actually going to be here at Ken Brown Field against Orange County. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I looked at
Coach, if I can make it to that game, can I get some sideline pass love?
I'll see what I can do for you, Rusty. I always got love for you and any 757 guys.
Yeah,
I'll add to that. I always say this to football coaches. We'll take sideline, but we also want your luxury box too. So both of both.
There's been some games where guys have tried to grab the play sheet from me before the night.
Yeah. JC, I was gonna say, if you're really my boy, you'll let me call a play.
All right, Coach. I do want to bring something up before Rusty dominates the conversation. Now, in '87, which was your junior year, you were at Courtland, and you beat a very good Phoebus team at Todd Field in Newport News, and I was at that game, and that was a close game. Many of us, rightfully so, at Phoebus felt we should have won, but you got, I believe that was the state semifinals. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then you beat Marshall for the title. So that was a well-earned title, and that Phoebus team was loaded.
Yeah, that actually was gratifying for me. My family today, my brother is currently coaching at Woodside High School. He's a PE teacher, and he's going to be coaching football next year for Danny. He's currently doing track. Him and Paul Macklin go way back. They were Minchville boys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Big name.
So the connections between Courtland and the 757 area go back to even when I transferred into Courtland. We would always every year scrimmage Warwick and Gloucester.
Oh,
and
okay.
If you guys remember back then, Warwick had Ray Savage and those guys.
Yeah.
Ray Savage is a friend of ours, and Derek Steele was another one, and they had some players.
Yeah. So the scrimmage is one thing, but then to go through the entire season, my junior year, the first round of the playoffs, we got revenge and beat Salem because my sophomore year, we lost to them in the region final. So we got them at home. We beat Salem in the first round, had to go on the road and play EC Glass in City Stadium down there in Lynchburg for the region final and beat them.
Great program.
Before coming and playing in Todd Stadium in front of the home crowd, my entire family was there. Rusty, I know in talking to Big Inco, I think some of the Bethel guys knew I was coming back. They were there to watch the game. It was just gratifying to go in there and to beat Phoebus, believe it or not, in overtime.
I remember.
You might not know this. Timeout was called on third down in that game in overtime. Our offensive coordinator came to the huddle and he drew up a play in the dirt.
Oh,
and it was just a simple play where we were going to run. So it was 3rd and 18 in overtime. Our first 2 plays didn't go well in overtime, and Phoebus had the lead. So it was simply a play. I remember it like it was yesterday, being the quarterback. JC just looked the 2 guys. We're going to run their defensive backs off and just look them off. And when you feel pressure, we had a back that just simply swung out of the backfield. Stephon Banks was a great high school football player, a 2-way player for us, great free safety. We just had him swing out of the backfield, and I just dumped it to him. And as I was getting hit, I just remember seeing him tiptoe down the sidelines to score, to win that game 22-21. And that, believe it or not, guys, was the state championship game. That was the game.
Yeah, because after, and you know what? If that, you know what that sounds like? Sounds like it should be a movie. Because remember the Titans, what people don't realize is in the movie, they made the dramatic win in the state championship, but in real life, the semifinal was the big game. That was the hard, like they blew out whoever they played the state championship. But it was something like that. Just think, remember the Titans, they were drawing up stuff in the dirt. Right. Went they play and won the semifinal. That sounds just like that.
Yeah, and I mean George Marshall. I mean, take nothing away from them or against them. I mean, they were the state championship game, but there was no comparison them and Phoebus.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Phoebus.
Yeah.
They did a great job defending. We run the wing tee still today at Courtland, and they did a great job of defending us that day. We just happened to make in games like that when the parity is pretty level, the athletes pretty much match up. It's going to come down to one or two plays. And I just remember, again, like it was yesterday. And for me, playing postgraduate year, playing in college ball, coaching for all these years, I still remember that play as if it happened yesterday.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's outstanding, Coach. So JC, I want to while we're still talking about some of your Courtland days, all right, who if at Courtland High School, can you tell us about some athletes that you've either coached or played with at Courtland that we might have heard of, or that you just thought were special people? And you know what? They never played college football, they never played professionally, but there anybody that sticks out in Courtland football history to you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, I just remember coming from Bethel, where there was, and the 757 area for that matter, there's a lot of athletes. And for me, I always correlated track and football simply because being a coach's son and my dad coaching track and football, that's all I grew up around. That's all I knew. Yeah. So there's a couple of guys that come to mind for me in terms of that I coached. One particular individual just finished up. He started at cornerback for UVA, just graduated, Nick Grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know he was hoping to get drafted. I'm hoping he signs a free agent deal with someone. I mean, he had the opportunity to play in the Orange Bowl, to play in the ACC championship game. There's a couple of guys. I coached the number 1 and the number 2 leading rushers in school history, and a guy named Victor Green, and another guy, George Cheatham. George Cheatham ended up playing football at Virginia State and graduating from there.
Oh, cool.
Got another athlete, probably one of the best athletes I've ever coached, in Jabari Allen. He's going to be a senior at Towson this year.
Okay. What about some of your track athletes over the years, Coach?
Some of my track athletes. Well, I can go way back now. Now, I did coach track at Courtland, and I coached track at Brook Point at one time.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tell us about that. Yeah.
So there's one guy that stands out to me that's in track at Courtland. He's at Howard University now, and his name is Sean Ray. Okay. He was a state champion 2 years ago in the triple jump.
Right.
Okay.
He's just a great versatile athlete. He could hurdle for me. He could long jump. He could triple jump. And then, Brook Point days, I had a couple of guys. I had a triple jumper, Jason Flood, that went to Virginia Tech. I had Keosha Sanders. She ended up,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
You know Keosha. Keosha was at Iowa State and then transferred to Tech. She was a great hurdler.
Yeah, we coached together. Yeah,
he's on the circuit for summer track and stuff like that, I know. And then going back to, even just, again, my days watching, whether it was KK Wooden, I can go all the way back just watching.
Mark Rainey. Mark Rainey.
Mark Rainey. And then even all the way back when I was knee-high to a grasshopper in 77 and 78, my dad coached at Denbigh High School, a guy by the name of Joey Smith. And this guy in 1977, 78 triple jumped 50 feet and went on to play receiver at Clemson. And I just 50 feet today is almost unheard of.
Right.
And that's back in 77, 78. It's just a different time, obviously, different training regiment, but he could leap, man. He could jump out the stadium.
Hey, Coach, one thing I was going to ask you about is, I'm trying to think of the last time, Rusty, the last time you and I drove to Richmond was for the state basketball championships, which was not that long ago. And one of the things that I noticed is the development. So it's getting more and more populous as you go south. There used to be that gap. And I was just looking up where you guys are located, off of 95, above Thornburg, but below Fredericksburg. But so you're 4A now, right, Coach?
That is correct. We're Region 4B. Yep.
And or 4. But with the growth down there, I don't remember when we were coming up, Massaponax, because they've become, they're good. And then you mentioned, Brook Point and I believe it's Colonial Forge and the schools out of Stafford. And I don't know what they put in the water there, man, but there's some football players. But one of the things that Rusty and I were talking about is we're trying to get all around the state. And that area, which is kind of Richmond, but I think it's statistically part of Northern Virginia. I'm not sure. But the football has gotten really good. There's good prospects coming out of there. How you've been the coach, 20 years. How have you seen it change, become more competitive? I saw your schedule. Some of the teams that you're playing, all of a sudden, like an Eastern View and Culpeper, and those guys are really good football programs. How's that coming down there?
Well, the growth here just continues. And now everybody's just moving south, that's traveling back and forth and commuting up to either Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
So, in the 80s, there was 2 high schools in Spotsylvania County. There's now 5.
Right.
In the 80s, there was, in Stafford County, it was Stafford and North Stafford.
Right? Yeah.
But now it's 5.
Yep.
They've added Mountain View, they've added Brook Point, they've added Colonial Forge.
Yeah.
Here for us in Spotsylvania County, they added Chancellor, they added Massaponax, and they added Riverbend. And we already,
wow.
In the 80s, it was just Spotsylvania and Courtland.
Right. And those are some good programs, and they're putting out prospects, Riverbend and all of the programs. So,
Now, let me because I was talking to somebody about this, just like when we moved to, and your dad, we'll talk a little bit about your dad coaching at Gar-Field, but I was telling somebody about how, there was so much talent in Prince William, or even down in Spotsylvania, but it kind of we've grown since we've been in Prince William. I think they've added about 6 high schools. It tends, I know there's growth and there's more people, but it also tends to water down some of the talent. Do you see that as being the case? Because I know when I'm talking, my kids were originally zoned for, from the time we've been in our house 20 years, the first 14 years, they thought they were going to be Bulldogs. They thought they were going to play for Hilton, a traditional powerhouse. And then they opened Colgan in their zone for that. But I've seen, and I think I want Colgan to be good, but I've seen Hilton come down. And I've seen some of these things affect a Gar-Field, which was a powerhouse, and so then when you start opening up Hilton and then Forest Park. And so has that impacted you all in terms of maybe those dynamics?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think anytime you have growth, it's going to level off, especially when you get to the point where, the one advantage is at some point in time, before they build a new high school, that just simply means your school's overcrowded.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Usually you're getting the pick of some good litter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Athletes, and they're coming in droves. And then the other thing is it starts to level out as you get more high schools. But you still have to be competitive, not only within the district, but you got to stay competitive within the county.
Right.
So
okay.
You just got to keep digging and clawing, man.
Yeah. Yep. So, but now, go ahead, Kirk.
No, I just wanted to have Coach Hall talk a little bit about your father, because your father is a Newport News guy, played for Newport News High School. And, it's funny, my mother, there was only Hampton and Newport News back in the day, and your dad was a coach. Wanted to just do a quick chat about that, and, and then maybe transition to now, what's going on now and the changes that you see. We're all the same age relatively. And we want to get your view on what's changed. Parents, students, sometimes that varies, etc. So just tell us a little bit about your background, because we've got a big base of 757 viewers.
Yeah. Well, for me, like I said, I mentioned before, I was born and raised in Newport News. Dad, again, was a journeyman as a coach, whether it was football or track. He eventually got away from track. But he started off coaching 70 to 78 at Denbigh High School. He was a football coach there under Matt Boone, coached a lot of athletes. And for me early on, that was the example.
Yeah.
The athletes worked hard. The training regiment was a little bit different. You know, it wasn't as scientific then as it is today. So, you know, I look back at it now and some people go, man, those coaches were borderline abusive. But at the same time, the athletes crave that.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, from 78, let's see, again, he's a journeyman. In 79, he coached at Grambling State with Eddie Robinson.
Wow.
Left 79. Then 1980 was under Johnny Majors at Tennessee. So we moved to Knoxville then. Because at the time, Dad went to Grambling State to be a GA. We stayed back. You guys probably remember off of Old Colony Road.
Yeah.
By Sanford. That's where I started playing my football, Sanford.
We were talking about that. I played 1 year for Sanford. Yeah.
And quick story there. It's kind of funny. I know I'm deviating from my dad, but my first football coach was, you guys know John Harvell, who's the head baseball coach at CNU.
We do.
Yep.
His dad was my first football coach. And
Okay.
I told John this a couple of years ago. He was here visiting Courtland when his son, I believe, was a senior at York and played basketball. And they were up there 1 year playing us. And I said, John, I never told you this, but your dad told my mom, and my mom used to always run around and brag about this. Your dad told my mom that I was going to play college DB one day. I was going to be a defensive back in college. And she ran with that like it was the truth. Obviously, it came to fruition. And
Wow.
John's response was, well, that's the first one my dad got right. So,
yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. So, you know, from there, you know, Dad, again, got out of track, you know, once he left to go coach college. Eventually he came back, and I'm trying to think, because in the 80s, at some point in time, 82, 83, he was here in Westmoreland County at Washington and Lee High School.
Okay.
Then we moved back to Hampton off of Nassau Place, Rusty. That's when I ended up going to Bethel.
Yep.
And Dad was, I can't remember, I think he was Newport News apprentice.
He was at Apprentice school, right?
Okay.
Yeah, under Norm Sneed. And then from there, he coached with Bill Mountjoy at Deep Creek. And I don't know if
very good program.
Remember, they had Darren Perry and A.J. Jimerson.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And Darren Perry was their quarterback, and they ended up, I watched that game as a youngster. They came in the region final to Todd Stadium and lost to Hampton that year. And Darren Perry was a heck of a high school quarterback. I mean, obviously, he went and played in the pros, and I don't know who he's coaching with today or if he's retired, but I know he's been a position coach in the NFL for a while now. So, you know, then from Deep Creek is when he came here to Caroline, took a job here in Caroline, and he said, I'm going to put you in one of the best programs in the state. And that's when I got to meet Coach Brown and play for him. And I was fortunate enough to play quarterback for him in the wing tee, and then eventually he let me play defensive back my senior year, because at that time he didn't let his quarterbacks play both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But he was convinced to let me play defensive back, and then from there, again, Dad, a journeyman. I went to JMU after a Fork Union year. Dad ended up at Bassett High School down in Henry County, down outside of Martinsville.
Maurice DeShazo.
Yeah. And then it was a little bit after Maurice. And then he ended up coming back up here. Now in the 90s,
He coach at Gar-Field?
The 90 year, I don't know how long he was there at that point, but 1990, again, this game was at Darling Stadium. Gar-Field went down to Darling and beat Hampton in the state final.
Oh, wow.
And that was I want to say 14-13 game. That was a really close one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again, it's I know and understand 757 area, and it's always neat just to go back there because I know what the talent level is, whether it's the PD side of the water or the other side of the water. It's good football.
Right.
And JC, so for those who don't know, we played together for 2 years at Bethel. And JC was just a good dude, man. Like it's one of those things when you look back, I feel like, what's that show? The one that's the Wonder Years. I look back and I just see, 8th and 9th grade JC Hall, like just a good dude, man. We played on that JV team together. JC and I both played quarterback. And JC, back then, I don't think Coach Cos could appreciate your running ability. I think we thought JC, he's just going to throw the ball. But we didn't throw. Bethel did not throw the ball, And so I think they were thinking, well, JC, he's just a thrower. But you could run, and clearly you proved that at Courtland, running the wing T.
Yeah, I mean, but again, for me, part of that was, I remember my mom when I was little, she'd drop us off at Todd Stadium at 12 o'clock so we could just be with Dad, who was at a track meet all day long. We just couldn't wait for the track meet to be over, Breck and I, so that we could get on the track and run a lap and race each other. We just stayed outside the fence and chomped at the bit all day long. We loved it when they let us in the infield to watch the long and the triple jumpers. Again, that's when you see it and you see the type of athletes at such a young age like that.
Oh yeah.
You just develop an it factor. You know it when you see it. And that's why I just have such an appreciation and just tried to carry over what I knew and what was instinctive and natural for me, and that's to run track and to play football. That's all I ever wanted to do,
Yeah.
Coach, you really got my wheels turning here because I want to transition to how things are now and how different they are. And I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your program. But let's talk about those athletes that you saw. Now, on social media, I will see there's a showdown from a certain part of the area, this 10U number 1 ranked team against the number 2 ranked 10U and 14U. Why I'm bringing this up because it comes to mind. I've been watching Coach Snoop and
Friday Night Tights.
but Coach Snoop, 14U, man, they're flying places. And, there's all this specialization. They're training kids in elementary school. What do you think about that? Because the guys that you're talking about back in the day, the guy that went and ran track and played, wide receiver at Clemson and some of the great athletes that you talked about. I mean, what's your feeling about then versus now? What do you feel about that change?
JC, before you say anything, I'm going to tell you what our training was because JC and I were talking about this. It was being a year-round athlete, but I'll tell you some of the greatest training is. I was telling JC, remember the time when I walked over to your crib and we went, and me and Melendez and you, and we went, not sure if Breck was there because I feel like it was a summer. I don't know. But I know we walked to the little field right around the corner, and there's this open field, and we played just sandlot football, tackle football. And I was telling you, JC, I remember we threw the ball off, and it was like this older man. I feel like he was a man. He could have just been an older teen or whatever. Right. But a big dude, he got the ball on the kickoff, and my brother Melendez just went, pow! And I saw the stars for him, but Melendez held him and went down. And I know it was something we talked about later, but I was like, I should have known then he was going to be a middle linebacker in college.
Yeah.
But that was our training.
Right. Well, that's the difference because I think for me, I was always outside doing something. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's football, basketball, racing somebody,
Anything.
Yes.
Anything.
And because all these athletes that I grew up watching, they played multiple sports, and I saw it work. And I played basketball, I ran track, I played football. It worked for me. So I am an advocate today, Kirk, to answer your question, of doing multiple sports. I am not a specialization guy.
Specialization. Yeah.
I'm not an advocate of it. For some, it might work. I just am one that I don't believe in putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
You know, the other thing too, I would say today, obviously, I mean, you guys see and hear all the mental health issues and stuff. There's so much pressure on the athlete today.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it personally is due to social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're ranking kids early when you and I, all the three of us know that ranking means nothing.
Nothing. That's a good,
Okay.
Rusty and I had an off-record conversation about this, about a kid that's ranked so high. I'm so glad you brought that up, and we can't say that enough. It does not mean anything.
Coach,
When a horse doesn't have the mental capacity of a human, but can beat 80-1 odds, the ranking for the rest of the horses meant nothing, just like yesterday.
Yeah, just like yesterday. That's right. That's right.
80-1 odds, that means nothing. You still got to perform.
You got to perform. That's right.
And
I'll say,
I think some of the rankings early on is putting too much pressure and high expectations.
Right.
Again, it's just my personal opinion. Some people will shoot me down, and that's fine. I just know at the end of the day, whatever the athlete ends up doing, I never have had somebody come back regretting doing multiple sports. They've never come in, man, you know what, that year I shouldn't have played basketball. I probably should have got with my personal trainer and did X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Okay. Well, first off, your personal trainer, by doing that, you saved yourself a lot of money. Okay.
Yep.
Number one.
oh yeah.
Number two, you could have been in the weight room with your coaches or your teammates getting just as good.
Right.
Okay. And again, for me, the training's different now. Okay. It's more scientific. So again, multiple sports is you're working different muscle groups.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Coach, go ahead, Kirk.
No, I was just real quick, Rusty. Coach, what are your rules for your team on social media? Do you have rules? I'm sure you do.
Well, it's very hard to police today.
Right.
Because now with Snap, they can put something up and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So my simple rule is this, because I'm not big on a lot of rules that, number one, I can't monitor or I can't keep up or can't remember myself.
Right.
Are you going to post something that your mom or your grandmother would probably regret you posting? You know, you got to think about that, man. You not only, all right, if you're posting something and maybe for whatever reason you're disregarding or not thinking about your team, it's still your brand. It's still your brand. And the other thing I do is try to push, is it's not a rule. I just let them know, hey, you guys remember now, if you're being recruited, there's people out there watching.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, the recruiters, I've been doing this for a long time now, 26 years. And now with social media, they have people that will find it if they need to search for it.
Yeah.
And they have people that pay attention to that. And I'm not going to sit here and say it makes a difference one way or the other. That's for the recruiter to decide. But again, if your grandma and your mom are probably regretting it and hope you didn't post it, then the recruiter's probably not happy with it either.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yep.
That's one of the things on social media. I have a son that's an 11th grader and getting interest for college. He's a pretty good high school player. But one of the first things when we were in 8th grade, and I was thinking about, hey, let's look at what is this thing going to be looking like in terms of colleges, camps. And one of the first things people were saying is, oh, he's got to get a Twitter account. He's got to be able to put this stuff and get his huddle up there and all this. And again, I see some of the pros to it, but I also see a lot of the cons. And, I early on, I've had to talk to my kids about social media, and, I try to give them, and explain, and they still can do some things that you wouldn't approve of, but I'm glad to see that my son is learning, as my other two kids as well. But again, it's different. We just have to just be able to be on top of it. And it does show. And one thing I tell my son is it shows a level of your maturity to them. And, but it is a way to communicate. So I remember this, JC, back in the day, I used to get all this mail. I get mail. It just be coming in, Now for me, it wasn't like you. I was getting a lot of Division III or schools that were academic based. So I was getting West Point or Ivy League and a lot of Division III schools, but I was getting mail and I thought that was cool. But now they're just getting these DMs or they're getting tweeted at and all this stuff. I don't know if that's good or bad. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's another avenue for people to judge. Whereas if you're just posting encouragement or positive things, that's good. Because at the end of the day, I've heard recruiters talk about, we had to pull off of a guy because of the kid didn't even realize it, but what was in the background. I mean, just silly stuff like that they don't even know. And again, back then, it was by mail. So a lot of that stuff was filtering in, and I get it. You want to stay up with the times and have a Twitter account. At the end of the day, I tell my guys, the only thing that really is going to matter is the huddle highlight and the transcript.
Right? Yep. That transcript, no joke. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, really, they don't have enough time to be worried about all the other stuff that you're posting, these camps that you're going to.
Boom. That's exactly what I was getting to go on. I'm so glad you brought that up, because what I want to do is give you the opportunity to talk about your program now, your players, your coaching staff. A successful JV and freshman program are all important. It's getting more and more competitive down there, and you're going to get more and more athletes. But before we do that, so I'm kind of the sales and marketing guy. So Rusty is like at the executive level of the State Department, and I sell software. So what I do is
y'all making a whole lot more money than I am, but go ahead.
You're having more fun. We live vicariously through you. But, Rusty's got kids at home. I'm divorced, so I got a lot more free time. But one of the things that I do is I go through Twitter, and I see these young guys putting, it's top level, blessed to receive an offer from Georgia. All right. And then I see guys putting blessed to be invited to the spring game at Bucknell. And I'm just like, God, these guys must feel so good when they are invited to a practice. And I'm just like, that was never out there. And there's just so much, pressure out there, peer pressure. And you can tell these kids are thrilled. So I think that's the downside of, social media. But so you're getting into prime time. You've got August, your practice is starting, but a lot of your workouts to prep and whatever your kids are going to do during the summer. So why don't you talk to us about your team? Let's talk about your kids. Let's talk about your staff, your schedule, those type of things, because I know that your kids, will be excited to hear about, what you have to say.
Yeah. So at this point in time, for us, years ago, we were lifting 3 days a week. It felt like we had to pick up the intensity. So now we're a 4-day-a-week lifting program. If you're not playing another sport, the expectation is for you to be in the weight room. And I tell our guys every day, you're building your resume. Every day you're building your resume.
Right.
All right. Because at the end of the day, for me, and you guys know how it works now with football, it's one of the only true sports now where the recruiter still comes to the school and still talks to the head coach.
Yep.
Where all the other sports, they're getting recruited through other facets and resources. Okay.
Travel baseball, AAU basketball, travel soccer, travel volleyball, all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, but JC, before you go, I do have a question, and you can just add to this as you go on. And they don't have to specifically your thoughts about 7-on-7. But go ahead, and I just want, because I don't want to forget that 7-on-7.
Let's
what
talk
you guys
about
do.
Team, and we'll talk about, because are you doing 7-on-7, Coach?
We are not.
All right, so let's talk about your team, and then Rusty, I'm gonna make a note to get his opinion on 7-on-7.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So now for us, we're wrapping up. We've got Max Week coming up next week, and then due to graduation and a break until after Memorial Day. We're going to give them a 2-week break. They've been grinding now since January, February. That's a long grind.
Quick question, Coach.
Yep.
We're going to try to have a little fun here.
Yeah.
Who's your max bench? You got a couple that are close, or like your max? Who's your?
We'll go find out next week.
Okay.
We'll
find out next week.
All right. So what are you aiming for that max bench to be?
I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, depending on body mass and size, you know, for your linemen, you'd like for them to at least be benching 315. Okay. Or above. You know, for your skill guys, you know, Rusty, I don't know about you back when we were in that small closet at Bethel, but you know, in the 8th grade, if I could get 135 off my chest, I was happy.
Yeah.
And I had to work at it, you know, because a long arm, skinny kid, that's going to be hard. You got a long way to go to push that thing off your chest. So now today with a skill guy, if he's doing 225 or above, you're doing pretty well.
Right.
Yeah. I remember I was so happy when I when I could bench 200. I was like, yo, all these years paid off. You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, and we'll squat, we'll deadlift. And then after that 2-week period, I post all the time on our team band app, team camps. And I tell them if there's ever a question as to where they're going to with some of these combines, unless it's Rivals or some of these other prominent venues, then I tell them they've got to be careful. It's a moneymaker.
Exactly.
And I said, look, and the recruiters will tell them the same thing. You know, we're not allowed to be at those. They can advertise all they want. We can be at X, Y, and Z. We're not allowed to be at those. Come to our one-day camp where our coaches are coaching you. Our guys are legitimately timing you in the 40. We see it for ourselves. That way we know that time's not a farce. Okay. And by the way, it's a day and it's a little bit cheaper. It's $40 or $50 versus 300 or whatever, you know? So I push that. I tell them, hey, you guys need to go, especially if they're coming and talking to them here in the spring. You guys got to go where there's interest and let that staff or that position go take a look at you.
Right.
Okay. Pick 3 or 4 schools and go, don't camp yourself out over the summer. Because I've had some years where guys camp it out, then they end up first day of practice and they're injured.
Yeah.
You know, because they haven't taken care of themselves the right way. They're on the road, they're traveling, then they come back and we got to work through that in preseason because they're camped out.
So for this fall of 2022, why don't you tell us about what you got coming back? What your strengths are, you know, are you a fast team? You're running the wing T. Wing T, Coach Mickey Thompson, Stonebridge has been on here probably about 5 times. And we've had Coach Mike Smith on. Coach Smith is the 44th episode. A lot of people, that's a great in-depth interview of him. But like when you're running that wing T, how are you on defense? How are you on offense? Because that wing T can be varied. If you got a great running back, you know, wing T, but if you got a great passer and some great receivers, you know, the wing T can be different. So why don't you just tell us about, you know, what folks down there, and you said you're in 4B, right?
Yes.
Right. So what are you looking like at Courtland?
Okay. Well, first off, just our system itself, the wing T, I'm an advocate of that simply because number one, this is a unique situation for me is playing quarterback in the system and seeing what speed and misdirection can do to a defense I loved it. And it's very, very hard for a defense to prepare for some of the offenses that they typically don't see week to week, such as the option or the wing T. Massaponax running the option down here. I mean, they did a great job this year. Essentially, their state championship game was a loss to Oscar Smith. That was a 28-21 ball game. So when you get into some different offenses like that, it's unique in that regard. For me, what was unique is then I went to JMU and played free safety. And having to defend Delaware when they're running the Delaware wing T with Tubby Raymond and all those guys. Oh my gosh, I got a different perspective. So for us, we're always going to try to have speed, and we're always going to have some type of other eye candy or element. We call it eye candy. I was talking to Bud Foster one time, and he's like, yeah, anytime you can do motion shifts and trades, that's eye candy to a defense. That's making them think about something else.
Right.
Okay, for example. So we try to give a lot of eye candy. We're play action pass. So we will have a lot of speed this year. We've got a quarterback returning. We've got a couple of halfbacks. We're going to be young. I think we're only going to have like, and I don't know, roughly like 10 seniors next year. But I've got a young core that's really, really working, and they're going to be good. So for us defensively, transfer over to the defensive side, we're going to be exceptionally fast. We've always been 4-3 cover 2 scheme, just because, you know, cover 2 was primarily what we ran when I was at JMU.
Right.
And I love different looks and what cover 2 can do for you, and an even front defense. And we're obviously, you know, in the wing T, we're going to be formational. We're going to be multiple with formation shifts and trades and motions. Defensively, we're going to be multiple, obviously with our blitz and coverage package. So again, we're going to have a lot of skill back. We're going to be fast. That's going to be our strengths. And our system is our system. And the other thing I say about it is, because our systems on both sides are so multiple, we don't have to change what we do. We can just go with stuff that fits our personnel.
Now, yeah, that's great.
You know, we don't have to worry about being a 2x2 set and we're spread. Well, oh my gosh, this year we only have 2 guys who really throw it 2 of the 4, and our quarterback's not really a trigger guy. Well, you got to change then. You know, you got to do something. You're going to have to. So for us, the quarterback, just stay steady, keep the chains moving. Everything else will take care of itself. And then, you know, again, obviously, hard work's going to help with execution, which we're doing now. And then obviously if the kids are grasping and picking up, and Kirk, to your point too, with the JV program, we're going to be very, very basic and vanilla with the JV program, because we want them to, number one, understand our culture and get used to high school football, even though it's still JV, it's not varsity. And we're not going to be as multiple, but we're going to get the basics of the system down, both offensively and defensively.
So they're obviously running the wing T.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
JC,
and freshmen? Sorry, Rusty. Freshmen?
We only have JV and varsity.
Oh, yeah, we got too much money up here. Sorry.
Yeah. No, we've never had a freshman team.
We never had
what?
it in Hampton and Newport News either.
But you know what? Those, Kirk, actually, I was talking to a couple of coaches here in Prince William County. A lot of the freshman programs are going away because of the lack of interest. Yep. And if there's 12 teams in the county, but now only 4 have freshman teams, it's hard for them to find a game. Yes. So a lot of them, even if they have numbers at their school, they'll just go ahead and have a JV program. You know, so even if you could put the numbers out there, just because you may not have anybody to play, and they may not be getting the same quality coaching on that freshman, if you got a whole other set of coaches who may not always be there. But JC, question. So I know you're running the wing T. Have you ever had a 1,000-yard passer in your system?
Yes. We had 3 consecutive years of 1,000-yard thrower.
Okay.
And again, for us, it just depends on the trigger guy. It's no different than, matter of fact, the kid I mentioned earlier, Jabari Allen, who's at Towson as a receiver, his sophomore year, he played quarterback for us. I said, Jabari, do you want the ball in your hands every down? And he goes, yeah. So you can do a lot of things with the ball in your hand every down. You're not only going to just be handing it off, you're also going to be throwing and running. I like to have a quarterback that is diverse and multiple in terms of his athletic ability. Is he got quicks? Is he fast? Because there's a lot of quarterback runs out of the wing T that you can do. So yeah, we've had, and then there was 3 consecutive years where I had 3 1,000-yard rushers. For 3 years, we rushed for 9,000 yards. I had 3,000-yard back for 3 years.
In the same, wow, man.
Yep. 3 consecutive years.
For you, Coach.
Trust me, those years we weren't throwing.
JC, You needed me. I needed to be in that backfield, man. Oh man, that would have been so much fun. We ran that wishbone my senior year. I was telling you how we had Kent throwing the ball.
Yeah.
And he had two back. He had Melendez and Roger Harrison. And then we had Jason. We went to the wishbone. It'd be Jason, me, William Beverly, and maybe Melendez or Michael Dula or Roger Harrison. But it was like, so, but what you said, I just wanted to touch on real quick. What you're doing reminds me so much of Hampton High School. I love Coach Cos, but one of the things he started doing when we were going through there is he would change what we were doing sometimes week to week because he was trying to throw his opponent off. But what it meant was we're trying to learn something new and we didn't get it down. And then what ultimately would happen is if the game was too tight, he would scrap it and he's going back to his base, going back to his foundation. But I always said Hampton High School, they ran the same thing and they perfected it. And so those kids, you could know what's coming, but you couldn't stop it. And I always thought, because Cos was an outstanding defensive coach, but I thought offensively, even if it was still back to the wishbone, but if we were practicing the wishbone in the spring and we ran the same offense on JV and then we practiced it, and if we perfected it, I think, like you, it would have made a big difference. You know?
Yeah, and for me too, and Kirk, real quick.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The wing tee has progressed to the point now where it's shotgun wing tee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which brings a totally different element into the picture. So that's some things that have changed for us. We're always going to be a jet sweep team because we're always relatively fast. We're going to run jet trap, some sweeps, belly sweeps. And again, we're running waggle, we're running play action stuff off of it. We've got some sprint out game. So, you know, we try to be multiple in that way. And again, for us, it's the Jimmies and Joes and what do they know? Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now, is that why you don't really do 7-on-7 because you're running the wing tee?
Great question, Rusty.
Here's the deal with 7-on-7 for us. Because I'm an advocate of multiple sports, I never ask my guys to come play 7-on-7 with us. And here's the reason why. Is because in the fall, I've got a guilty conscience. If I'm pulling my quarterback off the baseball team to go throw, or my receiver off the track team that's a hurdler, and he gets hurt during his championship season, okay? Because the last time I checked, guys, I have not seen a 7-on-7 banner in a gymnasium yet. Nope.
Right.
Okay?
All right. That's a good point.
Now, that doesn't mean that we don't throw. We have spring drills, okay, where we're doing a lot of stuff. We're not doing nothing, but there's a time and a place. And now, if I've got everybody and they're not multiple sport athletes, we have done 7-on-7. But because all my athletes are doing other sports, they're doing what I ask or what I want, they're making themselves better. That's what I'm game with that. I'm good with it.
Okay. Good. That makes a lot of sense.
We do spring drills. We'll throw the ball. We finished up spring drills. We call it spring drills. We finished up spring drills last week. We only got about 3 weeks of it this year where we were doing it, 3 consecutive weeks. Just seeing what we got, again, letting the guys build their resume. How have they progressed? We're looking at, everything from, quickness to strength to, we might have to look at tweaking and moving this guy to outside backer this year versus a DN, whatever. Okay. So we're doing things, but 7-on-7 year in and year out, if I don't have the guys, we're just not going to do it. And again, hey guys, at the end of the day, show me the 7-on-7 banner. And then the other thing is you go to some of these tournaments and they're completely doing something they're not going to do in the fall.
It's fall, right?
What are we teaching the kids? Why are you doing that? I mean, okay, yeah. I get the competitive edge in terms of 7-on-7 and getting the kids to compete. I get that. Again, I've done 7-on-7. It's just for me, if I don't have the guys, we're not going to do it. If they're doing other sports, we're just going to stick with spring drills.
Okay. And it costs money, and a lot of kids are told what they want to hear, and it's not reality. We had Mickey Thompson on here talking about some like third-party 7-on-7 coaches telling guys that they can play college ball, but they can't start the high school level. But one of the things I wanted to bring up before we start asking, just some personal questions, things that are cool to know about you, is that I was just looking at one of the prominent recruiting services, and 3 of the top 11 players are from your area. And I'm just looking at Matthias Barnwell from Riverbend, and Riverbend's a great school. I mean, you've got you've got one from Mountain View, and that area is. And by the way, none of these are Stafford schools. Really,
Mountain View is Stafford.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I meant to say Colonial Forge, and has got a kid going to North Carolina, and then there was I think from Mountain View. Yeah, and it's like, and by the way, Rusty, there's not one 757 player in the top 11. Things are starting to change, but that area down there is really, really getting good recruits. More and more kids are coming out of Massaponax, and I think it's because you got more kids to choose from. Bigger schools.
I mean, it's again the talent's here. And I don't think anybody's ever denied that. I mean, again, you can go all the way back to the 80s with us being in five titles in 9 years. And then in the 90s, Spotsylvania won 3 state championships.
That's right.
That's right. 91 or 92, 95, 97 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or 91, 94, 97. That's what it was. So, then Massaponax has just been right there on the brink.
Right there.
Colonial Forge has been right there on the brink. I mean, okay, you're going to have to play excellent. We were there in 15 in the semifinals and lost to Lake Taylor. You're going to have to play well to beat the Lake Taylors and the Oscar Smiths. And I think everybody in the state knows that.
Yeah. They probably had Jalen Holmes, that Ohio State player back then, probably.
Yeah. So, I mean,
King George is good too, man. I saw them. Yeah. My son, they played in a 7-on-7, like a thing, just round robin last week at Colonial Forge, and King George killed everybody. I mean, they beat Freedom, they beat Colonial Forge, they beat Colgan, they beat Hilton. I mean, they were good, and they're on your schedule, Coach. They
got two really dynamic receivers. I mean, those guys have
the receivers,
multiple offers. Those guys are what makes them go.
Yeah. So what we want to do is let's just have a little bit of fun. Being guys our age. So what are we at, Rusty? We're about the 57-minute mark. We're going a little longer than usual, but you're a fun guy to talk to. You got a lot of personality that's getting ready to come out. Before we do that, because hopefully we'll announce that 57, 58-minute mark. So, you players that play for Coach Hall, maybe you'll hear some funny stuff here. So we just want to we're going to put our social media down. Kirk and Byrd Show on YouTube. Please subscribe. The rest, you can Google us. And by the way, Coach, we know we're doing well when we get a lot of feeds from Instagram. That's how the kids do it. So, Rusty, usually start this off, but
okay. So first
started off,
we start off first. We talking about social media. There's something I want to bring up. Maybe we can hopefully get this laid in. But during COVID, Coach Hall was a social media star. You were on the news. Tell us about your YouTube fitness, get off your butt COVID exercise.
Man, let me tell you guys something. You want to try to get your team through a workout virtually. It was very draining. Different experience, but I think it hit me, the COVID stuff, when my brother was saying they were going around the apartment complex and they were putting up tabs on some of the doors that people were getting evicted. I'm like, man, this is such a downtime. And our players, some of the kids, the students, they had no direction, no guidance. So I just tried to bring some fun into it. And I'm like, I'm going to give my players a different side of me they've never seen.
Right.
Coincidentally, I have had, and I'm not going to name the college staffs. There was 2 college staffs that said, JC, keep it going. We open up our staff meetings in the mornings, watching your previous day, get off the couch video. And I'm like, y'all are hurting for entertainment.
Get off the couch. I love them.
Yeah, we'll overlay it over here. I don't think we have to worry about copyright. So we're going to overlay it on the screen to where people, while we're talking about it, can laugh, because it is funny. So Rusty usually asks this question. What is something that Coach J.C. Hall does just for himself to get away? Is it hunting, fishing? Do you go to square dancing contests? What is it that you just do just for you?
He's from the 757. He probably goes rap battle. That's my dog. Come on. You talking like he's just from Spotsylvania. He's 757, man. Come on.
Maybe he does.
Wilton. We used to walk up and down Wilton Road, keeping it real up in Newmarket Mall, son, in the summer.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you now, my beatboxing days and Todd Kelly and all the boys used to do all that those days. I retired from that. If I did that, I'd be probably more funny. But,
what are your outside interests, that you do, for you time? Because we all need that, just our individual time. What are some of the things that take you away?
Just for me, jogging or walking. I'm really boring in that regards. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't hunt, I don't golf, I don't fish. Number one, they're too expensive. Number two, I'm jogging or walking with my wife, spending time with my family. My son's currently a junior soccer player here at Courtland. My oldest is at Shenandoah University, trying to study to be a history teacher, and he wants to be a football coach too. I said, well, get ready. You're gonna be poor.
Hey, he was a good football player. I came and checked him out against Liberty, man, when he was in high school. Really good football player.
But yeah, other than that, I read, Kirk. I'm an avid reader. I'm reading right now Uncommon again by Tony Dungy. I'm a huge Tony Dungy fan.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find materials like that. John Gordon, Staying Positive,
right.
All that stuff. I'm trying to find different ways just to also stay and be able to still relate to my guys, the players, the athletes. That's it. I really don't have anything else I do.
Do you read physical books or you do the audio books?
Physically, I read them.
Me, I'm the same way. I like old school books, but
I'm audio, man.
My wife gave me a couple. I was like, what is this Kindle thing? I don't know how this works. So
you get them on your phone.
So now I'm on my phone more than I want to be now, and that's probably why my eyesight's going bad. But
all right,
I'm reading the book about Walter Payton. I forget, golly, who the author, but it's a great book. But it's the one, golly, Sweetness. But anyway, yeah, that's because he's my favorite player of all time. But I'm reading it as I walk.
What's on your playlist? Do you do Spotify, Pandora?
You know what's on my playlist, and Rusty knows this. 95.5 WPGC.
There you go. That's my dog. Remember this? Hey, we all can relate. Why we 103?
Yeah. I mean, Kirk, back in the day, my mom, she would listen to the Temptations and the Commodores. So I'm a R&B guy,
right?
They growing up with Keith Sweat, Bobby Brown, Johnny Gill, Babyface. That's me.
Yeah.
And I think part of that's just because where I came from.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And for those that don't know, WOWI and WRAP were the two prominent rap. They didn't play rap. I mean, they were R&B, rhythm and blues, and things like that. And
but you know something. But I tell you something. Even though they were rhythm, if you look back in those days, though, they also played. It wasn't necessarily black and white music. It was like, remember, they were playing Duran Duran, Billy Joel, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper. Like all that stuff was cool back then, man. All of it. Yep.
Yeah, so for me here, I mean, not recently, but, remember we had Donnie Simpson on WPGC 95.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was listening to that, traveling back and forth to Brook Point every day, so that's me.
He ended all of his shows with Jesus is Love by the Commodores. So we always ask people about pop culture, cinema. Are you watching anything streaming, movies? I've been watching some cool stuff lately. I was going to say, I watched a documentary on Marty Fish, tennis player, and how much pressure he was under. He came up with Andy, the guy that went number one. But what are you watching out there? I've been watching a little bit of everything. The Snoop Dogg League and
Yeah, for me, again, my radio set to 95.5. My TV down here is set to ESPN.
ESPN. Well, ESPN has some good documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Michael Jordan documentary that came out during COVID. I like stuff like that. The NFL does the what's those memory things? The NFL Network, they do some of that.
NFL Life and 30 by 30 are awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's me.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, Rusty, and I can't believe I'm getting a word in here. We talk about grub. We talk about food. Yeah. So if you could just describe your cuisine, like sometimes we say if you have one meal for the rest of your life, but what kind of food do you like to eat? Have you turned it? Because everybody's a foodie now,
Yeah. Look, man, I'm always down with a good burger. But I am a steak and potatoes guy too. So you love seafood. Again,
seafood, that's my joint. Yep.
Favorite cut steak, Coach? I'm top sirloin.
Yeah, that's probably me. Yeah. I'm not picky. I'm not a picky eater either.
Yeah.
I'll try anything. I'm just not real picky. But yeah, good burger's always good. It's good old reliable for me.
And the burger business is huge now. All these different burger places.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these fancy burger places, man, you can spend a lot of money. So,
right.
All right. Now, we want to, Rusty, I think this is big because we're going to plug ourselves, but we want to get your opinion on something. So Rusty and I just did a really fun subject, and I called Rusty up and I was like, hey man, we haven't put out, something in a while. Let's talk about the best high school football player to play high school ball, not beyond their high school career, in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we did it 2 weeks ago. It's episode 69. And we're getting ready to do a best basketball, but we'll wait for that. So subscribe, because we're going to have a great basketball. It's a great basketball state. So let me ask you, Coach, just off the top of your head, don't think of it too much. If you were thinking about 3 to 5 players that you think, pre-college, because Lawrence Taylor would have been like a 2-star recruit, was going to Richmond, went to North Carolina. Cam Chancellor was barely, God might make the Hall of Fame. But all the great players that we know. You have a top 3 to 5, and we are at the 1 hour, 7 minute mark. I want to just get your input because everybody has an opinion on that.
Just in the state of Virginia?
State of Virginia.
Yeah. Okay. The first name that comes to
I know the first one
is Ronald
Rusty Byrd. Rusty Byrd.
All right, Ronald Curry. I got Ronald Curry, number 1. All right, Coach, you got Ronald Curry.
Yeah.
Coach, you got Ronald Curry. I got Ronald Curry.
Oh man, there's so many great ones. Just any position,
anything. Long as they played high school ball here. And, the thing is that, like I said, Lawrence Taylor is not on the list. There's some great players. Russell Wilson was not, he was a good player, but he was not huge. So, there's a rich tradition. So Ronald Curry, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you one I wish I would have saw going.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Who do people say, yo, he was a beast? You just, when you saw him, you knew it was special.
Well, he ended up playing college ball, going to NBA, but I'd have loved to seen Allen Iverson play college.
Allen Iverson.
So I rated him number 2, Coach, and Rusty didn't rank either of them. He had a different 2. That's okay.
Well, obviously, because Rusty rated himself 1 and 2, and we know
That's right.
Anybody else? There's somebody your year, Coach.
Hey, so look, 1 and 2. Let me tell you why. Because when I played with JC, I played quarterback, and then they would throw me my arm pass, and then I go play middle linebacker. Yeah, they threw. So I'm on both sides. I'm offense and defense, man. 1 and 2 right there.
Yeah. I'll tell you another guy I coached early on in my career at Brook Point High School. He's you guys would have to go back and look at the record books. I want to say Daniel Davis.
Yeah, he was the one, Rusty. I told you I couldn't. Yeah, Daniel Davis was a stud. So I will say this.
Man amongst boys.
what we came up with, and we had an omission, and that is a great, we have a lot of fun, and we've already started talking about basketball, but Rusty and I both agreed upon the top 5 with a key omission. And that was my top 5 in order was Curry, Iverson, Leroy Keys, who went to Purdue, was number 3 in the NFL draft. And then we went Harvin and Kirby. And I believe Rusty had Harvin number 1, Kirby number 2, Keys. So just a different order. But we both realized afterwards we did not put Kenny Easley in there, who went to Oscar Smith, UCLA, and the Seahawks. And then we failed to mention Chris Warren from Robinson High School. So that's a fun one. But look, Coach, it's been a blast having you on. We'd love to have you back on, during the season. And this is our style. We're not the Marv Levy type of, we're going to ask you. We like to talk a lot of, about the fun stuff.
Marv Levy or Marv Albert? Because Marv Levy hasn't interviewed anybody on the podcast.
Well, no, not Levy. Albert, I'm sorry. But
Marv Albert.
Yeah.
I know. That's my job to keep you straight, son.
Yeah. But, it was great having you on. Let's definitely, make a game. And you've got some good games on your schedule. So, I know your kids are going to take a break for a while. And I love watching the Wing T. So, Mickey Thompson runs it up here. Yeah. So we'd love to have you back on. Thank you for having on. We have a blast doing this. So, this is an evening type thing, and we'll have you on.
JC, with me having a son playing on Friday nights, it might be hard to catch some of your games until he has a bye, but I definitely want to check you out with some of your scrimmages. So we'll talk offline, because I just want to be around you in the program. Okay, bro?
That's good, because you guys might be able to. We scrimmage Lafayette this year down at Lafayette. So
okay.
I'm good friends with Andy Lynn. Those guys are Wing T guys. That's a scrimmage you might be able to catch early on.
Okay.
Where are you scrimmaging them?
At Lafayette, I'm sure.
Lafayette.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be over there. What's that complex over there in Williamsburg there, right there between Lafayette and War Hill? The complex.
You're talking to the two. We haven't been there forever, man.
I've heard of it, but now.
Yeah, I don't know the complex. I know Cooley Field.
Yeah, the complex right there behind War Hill High School.
Okay.
Probably where it'll be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good deal, man.
Yeah. All right, Coach.
Coach, thank you so much. Good luck on the season. Love having coaches on. And
hold on. One last thing. I want to point this out. JC gave a couple of names, but JC could actually rattle off some of the greatest high school football players that he played with in that VHSL All-Star game. In our opinion, JC and I talked about this, that class of
Kelly.
1989 VHSL East versus West, probably the greatest collection of talent. Now, again, we're seeing it from our prism, but like legit, maybe the greatest all-star team. Coach, can we quickly just say a couple of the guys? Because you were on that team that featured Terry Kirby. No, Chris Slade couldn't play. He couldn't make it.
Slade didn't play, but we had Terry Kirby. We had Todd Kelly. Eric Hunter was phenomenal.
Eric Hunter. Yeah. My brother Melendez.
Lindez was there. James Wilson from Hampton.
James Wilson
went to Tennessee. Yeah. He was supposed to go to Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
We had the guys from Reggie that went to Penn State.
Yep. Givens.
Yes,
Reginald Givens.
Man, those guys. And then was it
the kid that went to Carolina, Crockett? Yeah, Corey Holiday.
Yep.
Corey Holiday
and Crockett. Jay was, those guys.
Yeah, they went to Carolina. Man, amazing talent. Amazing talent played
that
in that
game was ridiculous. It wasn't even close.
Yep. No. So thanks, man. It's hard. I know it's sometimes hard to have perspective, because I'll say this: some of the greatest players also we played against and with, and I'll say Creighton and Comenius. Rodney Howard was one of the most exciting high school football players. Linwood Lumpkins, Leslie Bailey. You were there. Like, I remember being on kickoff, like, oh my gosh, please don't kick it. Oh yeah, went to Leslie Bailey. Oh my gosh. We saw those guys.
Those guys were all, I looked up to all those guys. I just remember going in the weight room at Bethel real quick as an 8th grader and hearing this loud, roar. And I looked, and Creighton, Big Inco was underneath the squat bar. And the only thing that came to mind is, oh my gosh, is the bar going to snap?
Yeah.
He was on his way up imploding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought he was lifting the entire weight room. It was unreal. I'd never seen anything like it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a big dude. And he's small.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, look,
I
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
No. We're famous for this. We're like, okay, we're gonna go. Okay, we're gonna go. But,
hey man,
Keith Hamilton from EC Glass, who played pro, and went to Pittsburgh. You had Todd Kelly, James Wilson, Jerome Preston, great defensive tackle.
Oh yeah.
Virginia Tech Hokie. PJ Preston was another good one.
They were cousins. Yeah.
And then Jim Reed, HRA, went to UVA.
Okay.
But Eric Hunter, man, Kenny Owens from Hampton. Yeah, that was a good year.
Man, you're bringing back names I had forgotten, but they were phenomenal.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And to make you feel good, all these guys are in their 50s now.
Yeah.
You look good, Coach. Got a lot more gray than you, my brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I'm trying, man. The walks are doing something for me, and maybe I need to get back and come out of retirement with the Get Off the Couch videos.
Get Off the Couch videos. That's right. I would love to see some of those. All right.
Thanks,
man.
Coach. We really appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys having me. You guys take care.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right. It's been a blessing. All right.